Ashley Seal, welcome to the Tick Bootcamp podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We are really excited to have you, but before we start sharing your story with our listeners, I also want to share with everyone that I have a really special guest co-host today. We have Alexandra Brooke Clark with us today. So Alexandra, please say hi to folks and just give them a little bit of information about your background and what episode you were on when you were last with us.
Sure, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be back. This is Alexandra, and I was previously on episode 409 of the Tick Bootcamp, and it's such an honor to be back. And I'm here to co-host and interview Ashley and learn all about her story. And I just can't wait to get it out there and reach someone who needs the help that they need.
Alexandra, before we build out Ashley's background, can you just share with folks what type of work you're doing now so that folks can know how to get in touch
Sure.
with you if they need your help?
Yep. So I started my company called Armor, ARMUR, 2 years ago, and I'm a holistic health consultant. And after I went through my own experience with Lyme and mold and parasites and co-infections and all of the fun things, I wanted to start a company to help other people. It's the most overwhelming experience going through this, and you don't know where to start. And I wish I had a me when I was going through this to just help me take step one. And who do I call? What do I do? What herbs can I take? What doctors can I go see? And I have a really amazing arsenal of tips and tricks to help other people get through this experience in the best, easiest, softest way because it can be really hard and lonely. And I just want people to know that I'm there to help them, whether it's for Lyme therapy or just to help them say, I just got diagnosed and I don't know what to do. So the company's Armor, and we're based out of Boston. And yeah, and I'm so excited.
Thank you. And we'll make sure that we put your contact information in the show notes so if folks want to
Okay,
reach
great.
out to you, they'll be able to do that. So,
Great.
Ashley,
Hi.
thank you for joining us. We've had you as a target for this podcast for a long time, so we're really happy that we've finally been able to connect our schedules and get you on here. So for folks who are not aware of you and what you do, can you give us just an outline of some of the things that you've done professionally?
Oh gosh. Well, as an actor, I'm an actress, and I've pretty much done everything under the sun to be able to afford my career choice. But just recently, I actually last year decided to help at a safe house for sex traffic survivors. So when I wasn't acting, I was helping their healing journeys as best I could.
So
Use
talk about
trauma as best I could.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So give folks a little bit more background about some of the places where they may have seen you, because when Matt and I were targeting you for this podcast, I had recognized you. So talk about some of the work that you've done professionally.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, well, I was a guest star on Ice Cold Killers and The Coroner, I Speak for the Dead. I performed at 54 Below in New York City just last July, which with for a new musical that's coming out called Boy on Billboard, it's life-changing. It's all about bringing awareness to people just not being okay and being okay not being okay. So it's kind of in the same realm as Dear Evan Hansen. So we'll see where it goes next. And I just wrapped a movie in October, and it's called Blue Moon Rising, but it isn't out yet. So it comes out hopefully this year. And I am set for a couple other projects that I am under NDAs already on.
All right.
Can't say anything just yet, but I'm hopeful that when I can, I will blast it to get people to the right place to watch it.
Well, the last thing we want to do is get you sued under your NDAs when you're coming
No,
in
I know. I was
sharing
like,
this.
it's like, and I'm sorry, I can't say. But that's a really I'm just really grateful to even have that opportunity to say, because that hasn't been the case for a long time. So really,
Well,
really thankful.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So, where are you physically, geographically? Where are you now, and where do you call home?
Well, LA is on fire. So I have a couple homes. I have a home in LA, and I am currently in Texas, so my other residency, and then I have a permanent address in Atlanta. So my mom is a retired flight attendant, so I have
Wow.
the opportunity it's the best gift she could have ever given me, but to fly for free,
Yeah.
as long as it's for fun, not for just for work. I can't do that, but I do get to go back and forth and have different places that I live in.
All right. So I guess bi-coastal gal that you are. You're in. So you're physically in Texas right now?
Texas. So it's like 20 degrees.
Okay. Well,
We have you beat.
we
Yeah,
have.
I know. Actually, I've been watching.
Yeah. So I actually today just tangentially spoke with a client of mine in Texas, and he was off for a snow day, and I said, "I didn't know you got snow days in Texas." Well, there you
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
not so in here, but in Houston, which is so bizarre. It never snows there, but I've heard that it's snowing there.
So actually, let's talk about your childhood, where you did share with us that you had the gift of a mom who was able to offer you opportunities to travel. But where was your home base? Where did you grow up? What was it like growing up?
I grew up in Texas, in Dallas, and I have the best mom in the world. She is my rock and my hero, and has been through so much with me. She didn't plan to have a daughter that wanted to act, and that was not her dream, but it became all the struggles that she had to join me in, or she chose to join me in. But my childhood, I grew up in Texas, and I did travel. My mom, really wanted us when we reached a certain age to not just have like a country project in school, but actually go experience different cultures so we could appreciate what other people had and what other people were doing, as well as appreciate what we had. So I'm really grateful for that.
So, you spent most of your childhood in Texas. I'm assuming you were educated in Texas.
I was.
Um, and when did you start to get the sense of what your aptitude was and what you thought you were born to do?
So at a really early age. So I've known my entire life that I was meant to be an actress and do entertainment. And as a child, I never changed my mind. So when everyone was like, "Oh, I'll be a firefighter today and I'll be this tomorrow," I was always an entertainer. That was, I used to actually have people, I don't remember this, but my preschool teachers told my mother that I would line up the class at recess at the start of the playground, and I would go sing part of your world because I thought part of your, or I would sing part of your word, because that's what I thought the words were. Um, and then they could all play, but not until I went to the
I had
top.
to watch you. Yeah.
So when they would pick me up, they'd be like, "Oh, she's a character. There you go."
Yeah.
So,
So
but no life.
talk to us about your health. Were you a healthy child? Were you a healthy young person? What was your health journey like?
I was always healthy. And to me, especially having such an adventurous mom, I the sky was the limit. Like whatever and I love spontaneity. I love adventure. So no matter what came my way, I was like, "Yep, we're doing it. Not even gonna think about it. We're just going." So I always had a bag packed, really, in a sense. And I never thought twice. I just always just lived my fullest, and just I never even thought that I would be sick ever. That was not even a thought in my mind. I wasn't anxious. I didn't have depression. I just was living life. And I was like, well, this is the step. So this is my dream. This is my calling. I'm going. I don't even like the word calling anymore, but this is where I'm going. And I just would jump at every opportunity thinking, okay, well, if I am the hardest worker in the room, then I will move forward. And that was just my game plan.
All right. So one of the cool things about having an experience where you can travel a lot is that you do get a number of different enriching experiences. But one of the downsides to doing all of that travel is you are also exposed to risks that you're not necessarily educated for or prepared for. So, for
100%.
example, as someone who grew up in New York, we never had any alligators in New York, right? When we go to Florida, I'm not prepared to be aware of when there are alligators because I was never grown up. I never grew up around them, right? So, talk to
Don't
us
do it.
about, yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because when you were a child in Dallas and you were educated in Dallas, of course, part of your education and part of your cultural experience was to be aware of what risks there were. I'm assuming you have snakes in Texas. We don't have those here in New York, so I'm not really snake aware, right? But you
Yeah.
understand based on living in a particular place, what are the environmental risks that you should be aware of and be sensitive to so that you can keep yourself safe. But when you're bouncing from place to place to place, right, you're being injected into new places and new risks that you're not necessarily prepared for. So talk about what the kinds of places that you went to during your childhood, how it was enriching, but perhaps how maybe you were not prepared to keep yourself safe when you were traveling to these places.
Well, most of the places I traveled were to Europe. So they were under a lot of just protection in a whole lot of ways, like very touristy places. Um, Belgium, like just really lovely, lovely places, Amsterdam. Um, and then that gave me the courage to go to other places that maybe weren't as safe. And I was so I mean, ignorance is bliss. My friends, when I was in, so after traveling through college with my mom and like different things, I decided, my friends decided we were going to do a mission trip, like go and partner with Kids Alive International in Haiti. And I knew nothing about Haiti. I was just like, okay, it's close to the DR. That looks pretty. And then I'd be with my friends and we'd be helping people. So I was like, oh yeah, let's go. And so I raised money. That wasn't a trip that I did on anything with my mom. It was with my church and with my best friends at the time. And we went down there and I was not prepared. I was not prepared for the living. It's a third world country, and I wasn't. I had no idea. We were in the jungle part, North Carpathian, which is about 5 hours outside of Port-au-Prince. It's probably not that long, but because of the roads, it takes about that long to get there. And we stayed on a compound for the most part, unless we were being taken by someone that was well known in the village around outside of that. And I got bit by a lot of things. Ticks were not really a thing there that I noticed, but I got bit by tons of fleas, lots of mosquitoes, and it was so hot. But I got very sick there because I accidentally, this again, I didn't do my research well, but I ended up drinking some of the water because that I wasn't supposed to when we were working, and I got very sick with the parasite. I brought a parasite back. He decided to come back to the States with me. It did do when I was there. I thought I was going to have like this huge heart for missions when I went. I was like, even though I wanted to be an actress, I was like, yes, I'm going to like, it's going to be all about Haiti. And I loved everyone I met there. Everyone was incredible that I met there. But I remember having a conversation with God and being like, I thought that I'd feel differently. And I just got this desire to just be a light in a dark place in the States. I couldn't wait to get back. And it wasn't just because I didn't feel well, but because it just made it very clear where I belonged, at least for a time.
All right. So let's talk about what you knew during your childhood, if anything, about ticks and tick diseases.
Nothing. Like if we're being honest, nothing. Like because in Texas, that's not really normally what you deal with. You deal with a lot of mosquito bites. So you know a lot about mosquitoes. And trying to put on that DEET, that's not good for you, but we did it because, but we really didn't know much. I just honestly, what I knew about ticks, if anything, was that it was in the mountains, and we don't really have mountains here. They're hills. Little bunny hills.
All right. So let's talk about how your life progressed. So you have this multicultural experience. You have a great deal of enrichment. You're getting spiritual enrichment by going to different places, and you're not only learning about what you like because of good experiences, but you're also learning about who you are and what you were created to do based on how you felt about some of the other experiences. Even though you had this helping heart and this spirit of help, you were learning more about yourself. So talk to us about how your life was developing, how your education was developing, and how you started to break into the acting and
Oh,
entertainment industry.
okay. Well, when I got back from Haiti, it was a couple months later that everything just started being just one by one put together. And in a month's time, I packed my car up and I moved to LA. And it just felt like all of my dreams were starting like beginning. And I did, as even though I said I didn't go with rosy glasses, I definitely did. I mean, you just hope for the best. You hope for it not to be what everyone talks about. But, but I went and I started strong. I had a manager. I was moving forward, and then I started noticing that I would catch everything. I was so I went from being super super healthy to coming back from Haiti with a parasite, and that was put on antibiotics, and of course that took out everything, including the lining of my stomach. So then I had to heal from that because I didn't take enough probiotics, just the things that just that happen. But then I went to LA, and I could touch a doorknob and end up with the flu or pink eye. And it would be someone random in the room. And I was never that girl. I was never that person that could be around someone far away and catch it. It just, and so after about a couple months in, I was catching all these things, and I had no money. Like, I went in my car, let's go get the dream. And so going to the doctors and everything, I was trying everything not to go to the doctor.
Right,
So,
right.
just doing all the things, cayenne pepper, I don't know, cayenne, the whole thing that tastes so awful. You do it because it make you feel better. Um, and I had no idea what was happening. And then I was on my way to Malibu, and it was going to be a relaxing day. I was taking the day for myself, and I was going to just go work on my websites, do things by the beach. So when you think of Malibu, except for right now, because of
Right.
what they're going through, it's paradise. And so being new to LA, I was like, yes, we're doing it. And on my way, I started feeling dizzy, and half of my face started going numb, which had never happened to me before. And then the rest of my body. So it just continued going up my arm and like down my leg. And I had to pull over, and there's the ocean, and then there's a cliff. So I pulled over in someone's like garage area because there was no other way. And I thought I was dying. I had no idea what was happening. And of course, with that, you have to find a bathroom right away. So there was nothing there. And so like I found this random supermarket, but like this has never been anything. And so I was like, okay, maybe I didn't eat enough. Maybe
Right.
I like didn't have enough protein in me that day. Okay, but like that was really strange. And so I continued on and shaky, and it just like wrecked my day, but it really freaked me out. And then I was at
Mm.
the supermarket, just Trader Joe's, trying to get food, and all of a sudden it started happening again in the line, and I had to leave. I had to leave all of my groceries I was trying to get because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm dying again. Like something is seriously wrong with me." So I made some appointments, all while also trying to pursue acting. So this made me nervous to go to events and go network because I never knew when I was going to start going numb, or I was going to have a panic attack, and panic attacks weren't something I had ever dealt with before. But because I had just gotten to LA, when I went to the doctor, their diagnose they had diagnosed me with anxiety. And that was all it was. That's what they said. And so they're like, "Oh, you're low in B12. Let's get you on B12." And so I would go on too much B12. They would have me on too much because they wouldn't take like my weight and everything into consideration. And then they'd put me on an antidepressant and anxiety. They just blamed it on acting, and I never had that problem before. So but I was like, okay, well obviously my body's freaking out. Maybe it is because I just moved, maybe it is because of all these things. And so I believed them. But then the medication would react poorly with me, unfortunately, and then I would end up having suicidal ideation, which I had never had before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. Like
Mhm.
I've never felt this way, but I can't shake this, but this isn't me. So I knew at
Mhm.
the same time of thinking it, this isn't me. So I would get off that medicine, but then I would have to heal from whatever they put me on. It's like they moved my thyroid medicine up and down. I have hypothyroidism. So they would move my medicine up and down because they're like, oh, well, it's high now. And then it would be low. And that messes with you too.
Yeah.
So I was constantly healing from some diagnosis that they had put me on. And then along with that, Lyme just got worse. So I started having food allergies, and everything I was eating, um, most of were going to the wrong parts of me because the holes were in my stomach. And so it was going to the wrong, it was creating these, like, I think they call it leaky gut.
Leaky gut.
And so it was thinking, my body started seeing the things I was eating as bad, even though they weren't, they were because of where they were located.
Can I
Um,
ask you a question? Did
sure.
you ever, during this period when you started to have all of these allergies, did you ever talk to a doctor about mast cell activation?
Girl, I
Like,
don't even know what that is.
okay. So no. Okay.
No,
So,
I wish I had known.
well, so mast cell activation syndrome, essentially in short, is how I understand it, is your body it has to go on a very low histamine diet. Foods that are high in histamine, citrus, avocado, tomato, and like things that you think are considered healthy, your body essentially interprets that as an allergy. And so what you're describing, because I have mast cell activation, is very true to that diagnosis. So I was interested at this point if anybody had thought outside the box yet about what you were telling them when you started to go seek help. But no, okay.
I wish they had. I
Right.
honestly didn't even know to ask about Lyme. I knew nothing about Lyme
Yeah,
disease. Didn't even know
same.
the word, honestly.
Right.
Like I barely knew about it.
Right.
And so that was never, and the blood work they would take. I mean, there were at one point, I remember like the lines of different blood work that they took. I've
Oh,
never seen so much. And it was like, I'm not even exaggerating, 11 different files. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to pay this off. I'm like this
I
poor
know.
actress. And I will tell you, I'm still paying everything off,
Mm-hmm.
still in debt, trying to get there. I'm almost,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been 11 years.
Yeah, I know.
So it's really, really hard, but you
Yeah.
do whatever you have to do because you feel like you're desperate.
Desperate. Yeah.
And I remember being at this networking event before when I was still going to all these different doctors and they were giving me the wrong diagnosis. Um, and I remember seeing someone pass me and I thought to myself, man, I don't know you, but I wish I felt like you.
Yeah.
I wish I had your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ashley, what was the window of time between when you first started to be symptomatic and when you finally got a diagnosis of Lyme disease?
Okay, so my symptoms started in the very end of 2012. And I didn't actually, I did the whole Western medicine. I tried. And then in the beginning of 2015, my friend here in Texas, when I came home for the holidays, was like, well, if you're willing to see my homeopathy person, you could go to them. And I was like, voodoo, like witch doctor me. We're done.
Yeah.
Like I've done everything else.
Right.
I was like, sure, let's go. Like, and so I made an appointment with her, and that was gonna be in June. So I made that appointment in January and got on some oils, some essential oils, which actually really helped me. My body really enjoyed those. So so in the meantime, it really, really helped. But then I saw her in June, and I just remember she didn't let me tell her my symptoms. She was like, don't tell me. I want to prove that this works. And so it was through electrodermal therapy scanning, where you hold things and it takes the electro I don't even know electrolytes electro somethings
Yeah.
through your body, and it finds blockage. It figures out where there's
Was it
block.
like muscle testing? Was she muscle testing you?
Kind of, it wasn't muscle testing, but it was holding, like, it's through a system. So like it's
Okay.
kind of like detecting what is going on through my body.
By frequency, maybe?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
thank
So
you.
it's
Subtle.
so that
I'm
so
sorry.
I that's okay. So Firefly was it called Firefly?
No, it's called, hold on, I have it. I think it's called like electrodermal
But
therapy.
it's using frequencies. So it scans your body essentially to find the frequencies to find the blockages.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you just kind of hone in until you find the
Yes.
problem.
Yes. Yeah.
So she was able to tell me, I sat there and she was like, okay, have you been feeling like you have had asthma? Like, have you not been able to breathe? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you have Lyme disease and it's around your heart right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, she was like, have you been foggy brain? I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, well, it's in your brain. Have you been thinking things that you normally? I was like, yes, I have been thinking things I don't normally think. I'm exhausted all the time, and I've been having so much anxiety. And she found it mainly in my thyroid and my adrenal glands, which is why my thyroid kept going up and down. And they were not addressing the actual problem that was surrounding my thyroid. They were just seeing that my thyroid was going up and down, and addressed that. And so
So I just want to ask you, when you were getting this treatment and she said the word Lyme disease, was this the first time that anyone, any practitioner, anybody who you had spoken to had said those words to you?
yes.
And were you shocked? Were you confused? Did something click in your head where you said, "Oh, maybe the bug bites that I got, during my mission." Like, what were your initial thoughts when you heard that?
I was relieved to have a name to a problem.
Yes.
I think I finally had like a pathway. And since up to that point, I lost a relationship because of my anxiety. My friends were like, just get on meds.
Right.
Just need to get on meds. They were done. They were done with the threshold of being patient with me and my flakiness, or
Right.
unable. Like I tried to be adventurous like I normally would be, and then I'd have to bail right when we got there.
Of course.
And
You're
it
not you're not the same person.
not. And it was
Yeah,
so depressing. I was so sad. And I mean, it hurt so many of my relationships. So to have a name for what felt like I was going crazy, um, it helped a lot. And it made me feel hopeful that
right.
maybe there was a solution, that I
Right.
really could actually get better. And I
Right.
finally found someone that was done guessing. We were
Right.
done guessing.
Didn't you feel, I know that in my journey, so when I was finally diagnosed, I was so ignorant about the disease itself because what I did know about Lyme was you get bit by a tick. And I was only told it could be by a tick, which we know is not true. But you get bit by a tick, you have a bullseye rash, you go to the doctor, you take 2 weeks of antibiotics, and then you're good. This is what I was told. So when I heard Lyme disease, I remember I called my family crying out of joy. Little did I know I shouldn't have done that. I should have been crying out of fear, but I thought this was a quick fix because there was no information, right? So when you heard Lyme, I'm assuming you felt like, okay, we got it. We know what it is and we're going to take this out. So I think that's really important for people to hear is that yes, it's amazing to figure out the disease because now we have a journey, we have a path.
Oh,
But
yeah.
everything you've ever been told about Lyme disease, I'm assuming.
Oh, I knew nothing.
Right. It's
Knew
very
nothing.
different. It's a very different disease. So you heard this diagnosis and you finally well, I remember feeling once I got the diagnosis and I felt like I had someone who believed me, everything shifted for me. Did you feel like that?
I definitely felt like, so she was really honest with me. She was
Yeah.
honest about the journey. So she was like, okay, you're gonna feel really crappy for a
Yeah.
long time as you detox this.
Right.
Um, what I wasn't prepared for was the loneliness of the healing.
Right.
Uh, um, because you can look completely healthy on the outside
Yeah.
and feel so awful. The
It's truly the invisible disease. It really truly is the invisible disease. So I just want to, for everybody listening, you were in her office, you get this diagnosis. Tell me what was your protocol? So you now have Lyme. She finds it around your heart and your brain, which is causing the suicidal ideations, the anxiety, all of this stuff. What is the plan from this practitioner for what she thinks you should do to treat this?
Okay, so this starts a journey. So,
Okay.
so what I started on was, there were two different homeopathic drops, one for Bartonella
Yep.
and one for
Babesia.
and thank you. I always
Yep.
want to say Battistelli, and that's not right.
Yep.
So Bartonella and Babesia, and you worked your way up. So I would start at one drop and I would work my way up every 3 days, unless like I started herxing. So if
Yep.
you know what that means, it's when my body reacted so strongly to me trying to detox that I needed to back off a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
my body heal a little bit before I could move forward with the drops. And but I didn't get, that was it. That's all I had. So I didn't have support.
Okay.
So I wasn't necessarily supporting the pieces of me that were working, because part of
Okay.
Lyme is that it moves. So once it's like, you detox out of your brain, it's got to move away from that. And then it'll sometimes grab onto a weak part of you. And then you're having issues there for a while. So I wasn't
Right.
supporting a lot of my other things that were working
Right.
with me in the meantime. And that plateaued me because I was also pursuing acting. And in my head, since I've been like little, that was my goal. That was my dream. Nothing was going to get in the way of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I would plateau or get to a spot where it was either too hard, or I was like, well, you know what? I feel okay today. I would not do the protocol
Right.
in order to go network or in order to get out of bed
Right.
and have.
Right. It's a really hard balance. Yeah, it's a really hard balance because the herxing, the die off of all of the toxins that are then floating around, I think that people need to talk more about detox pathways.
It's hard.
And I wish in my journey I had known more about that in the beginning, because it was just kill, 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 kill. And you're sitting there and everything's dying and it has nowhere to go. And then you feel just horrific for weeks. And so I think that the
Month.
detox, yes, yes. I mean, oh yeah, there's been bouts where it would last for months, but when we're killing off all of these toxins and these parasites and the Lyme and they're spirochetes, right? I don't know if you've ever like Googled what it looks like, but they burrow so deep in you. And when you get them and they die off and you feel so horrible, as you know, you're left with, it's a very lonely, scary place to be, because you're saying, I'm doing all the things. I'm listening to this practitioner, I'm listening to this person. And I know it's, in a way, you're happy because you're like, I'm killing them.
I'm doing what I'm
I'm
supposed to.
doing what I'm supposed to do, but my life is on pause. I am a shell of a person. I've lost all of my relationships. I don't want to go and talk to anybody, because what am I going to speak to them about? How I've been crying for the past 5 days because I can't, no one understands. And it's this very isolating process of, you feel like there's an alien in your body, right? And you become disconnected from everything around you. And I think that it's such an important part to talk about, because I appreciate when the practitioners say this is going to be really major. Don't think this is going to be a walk in the park. But you have to mentally prepare yourself for it. It's not going to be easy. You'll get through it, but it's not going to be easy. So I think people in the Lyme community share that sentiment of, we all know when we know when we take too much, and you're just like, oh, here we go.
I know. And
Here we go.
it's funny too, because like it's not really funny, but when the die off happens, you kind of want to celebrate,
Yeah.
feel awful. So that's like a weird juxtaposition to be like, oh yay, I feel bad.
A 100. I used to be like, I feel so bad today. I'm killing so much. And everyone would look at me like I was crazy,
Yes.
crazy. So, yes, it's this very weird, lonely situation to be in. But so you were on these two tinctures, you were on these two homeopathic remedies. Do you remember what they were? No. Okay. Okay. That's okay. I'm just
A while
curious.
ago, so I'm not.
I'm just curious.
I know
And
what I know now.
so, yeah. And how long, do you remember how long you were on those?
So I felt like I had the flu for about 8 weeks every
Okay.
day. And you just have to press through, which was so
Right. I know.
even just walking to the bathroom or walking to your car or having to driving gave me so much anxiety.
I can't believe you were able to drive.
I pulled over multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was people thought I got from A to B. I didn't without
Right.
usually having to pull over with a panic attack or
Right.
or
Right.
struggling with it. It is
Yeah.
not, and that's the, like what you said about mentally preparing. There are pieces of it that I wasn't like, even when you mentally prepare, the emotional toll that sometimes you go through in some of the detox is brutal. It's brutal.
Brutal.
You think you're the weakest link. Like
Yeah.
for me, I felt like I was the weakest friend, or why would anyone choose me over another actress who can do everything I used to be able to do?
You
And then
become very, very insecure.
so insecure and
Yes.
desperate looking. So, and I was desperate. Like, let's just be real. I'd go to these,
Right.
and I would have just this much energy. And that energy was for that event. And that was it.
That was it.
Give that energy to these people that didn't even know me, trying to make it so that they found favor in me so that I could move forward with my career. But I was coming off desperate. And there were so many times that they were so mean to me. Like they would tell me later, oh, we just talked about you afterwards and how desperate you seemed. And I mean, and part of the struggle is that like inwardly, you're just broken. You're broken in all
Broken.
your whole dreams. Everything just kind of feels like it crashes down
Yep.
because you never thought that a piece of it was going to be your health, that you
Of
weren't going to
course.
health.
Of course.
And so when that happened, yeah, I felt desperate. I had a hard time driving. Everything was so much harder. And I was nannying and I was doing
Oh,
things. So I
yeah.
was responsible for other human beings while I was also not feeling well. And so I did my very best to mask it as best I could until I was gone. And then my body would freak out or something would happen where I would find
Well,
a
you get more anxiety trying to mask it. So you get nervous about trying to mask it, which then causes like a vagal response, and then you're freaking out even more. But I'm curious, did the homeopathic remedies get those 8 weeks that you had huge hercs and huge die-offs? Did you stay on the course with this practitioner and continue homeopathy, or did you go, okay, so tell us what happened after that?
So I got to a spot where I plateaued. So in my
Okay,
head, because I didn't know a lot about Lyme disease, still didn't really know a lot. I just
right,
knew the basics. And what I was going through was so hard that I just was focused so much on that journey.
right,
And I felt so alone. I knew no one that had Lyme disease except for one, and she was healed. She was
yep,
good. And it was while she had been growing up in the north. So I didn't really have any kind of community
mm-hmm,
understood what I was going through. So there was just a lot of that. But when I plateaued, I thought I was okay. And so and all of my appointments were in Texas. So
oh,
I didn't have to fly back. Then great. Like, so I got to a spot where I seemed okay. And so I started going on the journey of feeling semi fine.
okay,
And I didn't really feel like it was helping me anymore, those two. And so my body just wasn't reacting the same to it anymore. So I would go back every 6 months, once or twice. So it gets
okay,
bad, even like all of a sudden.
right,
But I kind of went on this journey for like, I would kind of plateau and stay on it. I'd get back on it for like a month, feel crappy for a month. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. I can go do this. I can go be on set. I can go to Alaska and film this or like whatever. And I'm fine. And really
right,
convince myself that I was better. And
okay,
so I didn't feel normal. I just thought, okay, well, maybe these are just the repercussions of a trauma
mm-hmm,
and that I am better. I'm just not over the trauma.
mm-hmm,
And then I, let's see. And so that lasted until 2017. So I
okay,
did this back and forth till about 2017. And then I was put back on it. Um, and then I was active Lyme disease free. So they diagnosed me with active Lyme disease free. I went to the doctor, they did the test. I didn't have it
the
anymore.
Western blot,
Yes.
okay,
And so I did that thinking, okay, well, if the blood test says I don't have it, then I don't have it. I'm
right,
done. We're free of this. And I
right,
believed that. And then I got on tour. I went on tour. And that was the best adventure of my life. And thankfully, I didn't have any symptoms. I was active Lyme disease free for a while. In 19. That was 2019.
And was that the only blood test you had ever taken? Was the Western blot so your diagnosis came from the naturopath, correct?
It did.
Okay, so you weren't rerouted to take any other medical testing. You just tested Western blot. It said negative, so you were like, I'm good. We're moved on. Okay,
Said in the test and my blood work, it actually said that it had been there. Like it actually showed that, but it didn't show that it was active.
okay,
So that was whatever test they did. That was what.
okay, okay.
And then in 2020, I signed with the biggest manager I had been with. And my career looked like it was taking off. I was about to go on tour. I was talking to Warner Brothers. I was going to be having those meetings when I got back. It was just everything was working. And I did so much networking. It was like new me. It was like all of a sudden,
Right.
this was what I was trying to do for so long. and that new me was the old me, but now with experience. And so, but that lasted in January of 2020.
Okay.
And I was literally going from party to party to network, and it was so much fun. But then all of a sudden I started getting some chest pains in February, and I wasn't quite sure what was happening. And at that point, I hadn't had a panic attack in over a year.
Okay.
Have any of that when I was performing on stages, nothing. So I wasn't thinking in that realm at all. And I was driving to my side job, and all of a sudden, all of my muscles stopped working. I
Wow.
didn't have I had so much weakness in my entire body. I barely made it to the house, and I had to use both my hands to put my car in park, and I couldn't even stand up.
Oh my God, that's so scary.
I thought I was dying, and
Yeah.
went to the hospital. I actually called um, the mom of this family, and I was like, I need you to take me to the hospital. Something is seriously wrong. And at that point, COVID was just being talked about, sort of.
Okay.
They hadn't started testing for it yet.
Yep.
And I was supposed to go on tour 14 days from then. And from when I was in the hospital. And they looked at me, and they were like, this doctor who just blew me off in the emergency room after 5.5 hours said, "Oh, honey, you had a panic attack. I'm gonna give you Ativan and send you home." And I was like, that's not what happened. And I
Right.
need to be
Right.
for everything. And he tested me. They came out with that I had lactic acidosis. So as if I
Okay.
worked out a lot, my muscles didn't have oxygen in them. And he gave me Ativan, and he sent me home.
Now,
And
did you, at this point, when you were feeling so good and you had almost a surge of energy and you were going to these parties, do you think in retrospect, looking back, that, and I think that many of us who have had Lyme share this, I know for me, I have a very small threshold of what I used to be able to do from what I can do now. And even emotionally, and it's hard to describe. And I don't know if maybe looking back, you agree, when I get really excited about something, or I'm doing something that is a lot of social, like speaking and having to emote, I have like almost like a vagus response in my vagus nerve, and I crash. And I'm wondering, do you think that when you went so hard and you were networking and hustling and just running around and going to
God,
these parties, right? Do you think that maybe your body, it was just too much?
I think I finally, like, there was like this feeling of I had healed. Like in my head, I was like, I'm healed. I am
You
fine
felt really good.
there. And so I didn't ever have that. It was almost like I had all of my energy back.
Okay.
And I went to this doctor, or went to the hospital. And when I went home, I slept 23 hours.
Wow.
I thought I was going to die. I would wake up not being able to breathe. Later on, I found out it was COVID. Um,
Oh, okay.
and then after 10 days of literally not being able to walk, I could barely walk to, if it weren't for my mom, and my mom flew in. I was
Yeah.
like, something is seriously wrong. My best friend held me as I cried because I couldn't breathe. She
Oh.
didn't know I had COVID. Thankfully, she didn't get sick. Um, at the time,
Surprise.
I know. But I would try to do a squat or anything because I was
Yeah.
in the best shape of my life for tour 14 days from then. And I
Yeah.
wasn't needing it this time. And I was like, oh, I can't do a whole tour if I'm feeling this way. And so my mom helped me work because I had to go to work. I had to work.
Hmm.
She came along with me so that she would drive, help me with the kids, like everything. But after 10 days, I was not okay. I still wasn't. So I flew. Thankfully, I don't think I had COVID on a plane, but
Right.
I flew to Texas,
Back to Texas.
and I met with a different doctor.
And how did you find that doctor?
That one was in the same office as the one I had seen, the homeopathy physician. But she had, in the process of the years I would get on and get off, she finally said, "We need to support your system."
Mm-hmm.
She started supporting my gut. She
Mm-hmm.
started helping me by supporting my. She gave me Metabolic One, which
Was
is
this a functional doctor?
what
Okay. So she put you on metabolic one. What else did you take? Do you
the
remember?
Candida. She
Yep.
put me on Candida. Candida 9, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I was taking the 2 drops still that weren't working very well.
Okay.
We hadn't realized yet that I had plateaued there because I hadn't taken it.
Mm-hmm.
I had prioritized my career over my health.
Okay.
And so at this spot in 2020, I went to her. She was like, "Babe, you have full-blown Lyme disease. It is all over your body." So
Yeah.
anything I had dormant looked
Came
like,
back. Yeah.
and it went through my joints, through my muscles. I had such bad, I didn't know this word until later, but Lyme brain. I had foggy brain. I had my eyes, I'd get so dizzy, but my eyes would do something funky, and
Mm-hmm.
migraine, like
Mm-hmm.
all these different things. My heart, like just so many, and of course my thyroid. My thyroid
Right.
was hit first because that was my weakest.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so my meds would be off for hypothyroidism, which is never fun.
No.
I got on a different medication, or like a different drop to, I think it actually was called Lyme.
This is a homeopathy remedy. Okay.
Was, but when I went back to LA, it didn't really help me. The support did. I did feel better because I was being supported.
Right. Just your immune system at baseline needed some.
Yes. But
Okay.
so it wasn't until, so I didn't go back to LA because of everything that happened with COVID. And I spent 5 months in bed trying to, and I felt like I had a stroke so often. Like there were so many different detox experiences where I thought
Right.
something else. I was like, oh my gosh, this has to be something. And
Right.
created, this whole journey has created so much health anxiety
Yeah.
where I see like a dot and I'm like,
That's
my
it.
like
Yes.
or
Yes.
something drastic. But what people don't understand is when you go through something so traumatic, you do go worst case scenario,
Of
because
course.
worst case scenario,
Of course.
so many different things. And so but it wasn't until 2022 that my organs started just stop, like so we're not working correctly. And I felt so hopeless because everything I seemed to be taking wasn't working.
So you were still on the drops, you were on the gut support, you were treating candida,
Yes.
did you change your diet? Did they tell you to
um
go on a specific diet at this point?
Not really. Like I did start doing research on my own to do protein based. Um,
Okay.
that's my blood type. So I kind of went the blood type route where it's like, okay, eat for your blood type. So I tried to always have even more protein in my diet.
Okay.
So that did help. That did
Okay.
really help. But for the most part, um, I felt very much like I was flailing. I didn't have a community to help me to figure this out. I didn't know anyone really, except for one person who was like, I hope, and she was incredible, but she also lived in Texas and had a family and went over it. She didn't have it
Right.
before.
Right. Right.
So she was going off of her experiences, which I had already tried, and it hadn't worked.
It didn't work.
And so, but it worked for her, which is great. But anyway, so 2022, I was on the phone with my mom driving to another job. I had four and a half jobs at that point, four and a half, just to stay afloat because inflation and just
And
COVID.
you're paying for all the medicine and you're paying for, yeah, it's
Mhm.
very expensive.
And then on top of that, nothing was moving with my career. After everything died during COVID, building that back up while also having Lyme disease seemed impossible.
Yeah.
I felt left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was moving forward with their lives, it felt like. And here I was still not even really doing well walking downstairs and still feeling that anxiety that just,
Yep.
it just waits. It waits
Yeah.
until you get in the car.
Yeah.
But and then I was on the phone with my mom and I was crying and she was like, Ashley, like you really need to decide, do you need to come home?
Yeah.
And I just lost it. Like
Yeah.
my dreams, everything
I know.
were crumbling to the ground
Right.
because of Lyme disease.
You feel like you are not driving your own ship
Oh yeah.
and you are just a passenger in your life.
And that my life was over.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like my life was done and that I had
Mm-hmm.
failed at
Mm-hmm.
everything I had tried to do for 10 years,
Yeah.
LA and building, and it just wasn't working. And so I made a really hard decision and decided to prioritize my health. And I know that probably shouldn't have been a hard decision, but for me it was because
Yeah.
the dream was everything that I
Right.
wanted, that I felt like I was supposed to do as an actor.
Right.
And LA was the place, you know. And so, but I pretty much Irish goodbye out of LA.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know that you're there or not. Like,
Right.
so
Right.
I only told my core groups,
Right.
and then because my mom's a flight attendant and I had a place, so I could get on a flight at 6, and I still do this. I get on a flight at 6 in the morning and I'm there at 7, and I can be
Right.
there as long as I need to be.
Right. Right.
So it worked out perfectly, and God honestly put all the pieces together, even though I felt like everything was falling apart. And I remember I sold everything. And the
Okay.
stuff I didn't sell is at my friend's house in Northridge. Like, and they're so nice to still have some of,
Let's just still have it. Thank you, friends in Northridge.
yes, they are great. And then the nanny family, like, they were like, this is your home. This is
You'll
where
come back when you're ready.
and
And that was probably the best decision of your life to say, I can't do this alone. I need a village. I need support emotionally, physically, uh, 360, right? You needed to go home and you needed to have help because you can't do it by yourself.
And I actually was holding the dresser I was about to sell, and I was bawling my eyes. I was holding myself up. And I felt like God said, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I know this is the right move, but I am
Right.
so sad. I'm
Right.
so sad.
I know.
And you know what's interesting is that like then I came back, and I found I really was so hopeless. I didn't know where to turn. The things I was on weren't working, so I needed to find another way. And long story short, on that end, I found another functional medicine person who
Okay.
had Lyme. And so I went to her and I explained, because I was so hopeless. I felt like I wanted to die. I was
Yeah.
at a spot, and I've never been at that spot. I'm always the happy
I
person.
know. I know.
When I wasn't happy, people thought I was happy.
I know.
Know. And so, but I truly wanted to just die. I was,
I know.
and then I went and saw this lady, and I told her how I was feeling, and she was like, "Babe, you're gonna be well in 9 months. We have like a different solution, and I can speak with experience that what you're feeling and thinking right now is called Lyme brain. It's
Yep.
not who you are. It isn't you, and it's the Lyme, and you will be okay. You will not always hear this voice."
What
And
did you think in that moment? Were you like, ah, were you like the
I
angels have
cried.
sung and yeah, and you feel yeah.
I cried harder than I'm crying now.
Yeah.
I finally felt like I had hope for life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually could see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Because she went through it and you knew that she could do it.
She was the first one,
Right.
the
Right.
first person that could tell me with experience that I wasn't crazy.
So
And
what did she put you on?
she put me on Premier Cardio ND,
Yep.
Premier HMND,
Okay.
a gut help. So
Okay.
really called gut health. I could look it up, but I'm not going to
Okay.
one. Um, and then she put me on gallbladder ND,
Yep.
and that's all in Premier. And so she
Okay.
would see me every 2 weeks and test me, and it was through muscle testing,
Muscle testing.
to see how much I needed. So it
Yep.
would fluctuate or it would go down, but she saw me every 2 weeks because it fluctuated that often. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you need to not work out or do much right now because you're about to go through a really hard detox. And I laid in bed thinking my life was over. But that I was getting better, but
Right.
that I had just given up my dreams. I'm not
Right.
this. I have no friends here. And I
Right. Your only goal is getting through the day. That's the only goal.
and I did have friends. That's the thing, I did, but in my brain with Lyme and feeling so lonely, I felt like I didn't.
Right.
And so it wasn't my friend's fault. It was more just my brain. That,
Right.
like
Right.
the people that were, but I did have people surround me that were so amazing. And my friends in LA that were meant to stay with me through this journey and through and without and after stayed too. And then the
Okay.
ones that didn't just saw, I realized were just using me. And that was a hard thing to have to swallow too, walking away where it looked to them that I had failed. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was not useful to them anymore in the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment world. And so I never heard from them until I posted I was Lyme disease free 9 months later. And then I heard from some of them.
And hopefully you didn't reply.
I did.
I'm
But
just kidding.
I definitely had to work through the resentment and the forgiveness side of it.
No, there, I think that that's a really valid point. I'm glad that you brought that up because when I was sick in my own journey, as I started healing, not when I was in the thick of it and feeling horrible, but when I started to see glimpses of normalcy, I started to say to myself, okay, there has to be a lesson in this, and there has to be a reason. I'm not a religious person by any means. I'm very spiritual. And I said, I have to take something good out of this.
Has to be
And
something.
yeah, and there has to be something because whether that is for self exploration, whether that's what I feel for me, and I want to know what you think. I feel like my purpose is to help other people. And I had to go through that because I was put on this earth to now help other people with this and to heal and to not feel alone. And I think that that's a really important for anyone that's listening out there and you're hearing us and we're talking about all these horrible things. It's depressing and it's sad and it's scary and you're probably panicked and and all of the things, but there is a greater lesson in all of this and maybe you haven't found it yet, but you will 100%. And I think for you, maybe you're still finding it. I don't know. Do you think you
I'm still
Yeah,
So yeah, and I totally agree with you. And like, I think that when we go through something so hard, we try to find a reason that we're going through it, no matter what,
right,
wherever you stand. Like, it's like,
right,
hey, this has to have a reason. This can't just be because of life. Like,
right.
like
You're
it
like,
has,
I'm a good person. I do all of this. I went on a mission to Haiti. I'm
and
a
that's
great
where they believe
person.
I got it. That's where they believe I got it. They think I got it through flea bites in Haiti.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That
And
makes perfect sense.
I mean, and in my head, I was like, I was literally
Doing something good. I
help
know.
people. And
Right,
the only one in the whole group that got Lyme disease. So that made
right,
it feel worse. I was like really
right, right,
singled out. I didn't like
right, right,
um, but then okay, so I while I was laying in bed, this is such a cool story. And I want to encourage people that things like this actually happen. I'm laying in bed and I had no money. I was in so much debt because of all of the Lyme treatments and it was worth it. And I saw the debt as being worth it because you just when you have your health, you have everything. So
yep,
I'm laying in bed. I'm like, and I got this random email from a director I had never met before, and he found me on a website called Backstage, and we don't use really Backstage is a website we don't use in LA, so I had not been on it since early 2000s. And it's expensive to pay for to subscribe to, but I liked the project, so I was like, okay, God, I was like, this is literally all the money I have left in my account. Do I sign in to because I checked and I couldn't get in. Do I actually pay the subscription so I can write this?
right,
And I was like, oh, what do I have to lose? Everything.
right,
And so I
right, right.
all the money I had in my account. And I got in and I realized that, and I was a brunette at the time. But I'd been a blonde my whole life. So to see that on the site, my
Yeah,
actual brunette headshot was accurate. It was up
right,
to date, but nothing else was. So I updated it.
right,
I wrote that and I did everything I knew I wasn't supposed to do and what you're taught not to do to protect yourself in Los Angeles,
right.
Hollywood. And I gave him my personal information because I had nothing else to
Like,
list.
this is my address. This is my social. I'll work for free.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, he ended up calling me that night and told me about the project. And I said, sir, how did you find me? And he said, well, I'm a man of faith. And he said, and I looked, I was like, how do I find my lead? And he said, I found this button at the top right hand corner and said, see if there's any talent that hasn't seen the breakdown. He said he clicked it and my brunette headshot popped up.
Wow.
And I said, well, that had to have been God because I wasn't on the site.
Wow.
And then 3 callbacks later, I ended up with the role. And that started this journey, that started this momentum that has not stopped. And it was while I was resting and prioritizing my health,
Yep.
literally had nothing to give. I wasn't hustling. I had nothing. I had nothing to give.
Were you still very ill at this point? Where you were in bed, right?
Hmm.
So how long from the point where you guys emailed, you connected, did you have to audition? Were you able to get out of bed to do that?
So this blue screen behind me,
Yeah.
self-tapes is a beautiful thing. And
Okay.
I literally wear like sweatpants
Yeah.
and put on what looked like I was wearing a lot of
Right.
beautiful things, and then I would do the self-tape.
Audition from home.
Yes, or I'd have Zoom meetings.
Okay.
I would just have to be on for so long, and
Yep.
would go lay down, or I would go and in the process of this whole thing, I did 2 shows. I did 2 musicals that were so hard. And that's all I did. I would literally give everything to them and then go lay down and
And
sleep.
the course of treatment stayed the same. It was just the what you just listed, the support for your immune system and a few homeopathic things, tinctures still, the homeopathic. Okay. And was it ever on the table for you to be, I know you said you were on a Lyme tincture. Was that like cat's claw, wormwood? Do you remember what was in that? No, it was a
It was
pre-made
pre-made
tincture, but
for
that's what worked. That's what penetrated.
that one didn't, but
That
the
didn't.
near ones, the
The
HA
premiere really worked for you. Okay.
so well, and like it was still a really hard detox, but I felt like I was getting better every two
Yeah.
weeks. Like it was, and it took the care of these physicians that, and like I have two, like I have two homeopathy physicians that I go to depending on like where I'm at with things.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
both are so caring. They've seen me through so much. And the person I'm seeing now still has me on what the other one put me on,
Okay.
but I'm having heart issues, like it's just like a continual, so we're trying to figure that out, but it's mainly right now it's because my system isn't draining, so everything is sitting and not
Yeah.
draining. And I know that sounds weird for everyone, but like
N-
it's
No, that's are you talking about the detox pathways?
yes.
So let's talk about that for a little.
Sure.
So in my own journey, detox was everything. Every functional that I would go to would keep saying detox, and I was like, "What does that mean? What do you mean detox? What is that? What do I have to do?" So right, so we detox through sweat,
Mhm.
going to the bathroom,
Yes.
right? So we're peeing, we're pooping, we're sweating.
Yep.
And people who are chronically ill, TMI, but we're not TMI,
No, we all go to
people who are chronically ill sometimes cannot do two of the three things. It's very hard for them. They're chronically constipated. I know people, I have clients who will sit in a sauna of 180 degrees for an hour and will not sweat.
Mhm.
You too? Okay, so that is very common with Lyme. And opening up those pathways. Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. So I think detox is huge for people that are listening to know that if you are in the middle of healing,
Mhm.
you can take a million things, but if you're not ridding yourself of the infection, it's just literally swimming around in your
It's
system.
not helping. It's
It's not
almost
helping. Right. So, what are you doing now that has worked that is under the umbrella of detox? Tell us what you're doing.
Well, I'm in the process of it now. So
Okay.
good for 8 months. And now we're back to it's so weird. Lyme is so strange, but like you can be so great and be going strong again, and then all of a sudden you are absolutely not okay.
Yep.
Like there's no middle.
Yep.
So I went from planning everything. I was going to be actually making a move to Atlanta,
Okay.
3 different places, but now we have a residency there. It's
Okay.
fine, but I'm not
Okay.
moving because everything just started falling apart in 2025. And a little before it. And so these past 2 months have been really, really hard. And I can't tell you how great it is to find people that understand,
Mm-hmm.
because even up to this spot, I don't have a community of help or people that have struggled through Lyme. So when
Right.
I find people that like literally are telling me parallel
Right.
to what I've dealt with, or what, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And I
Right.
think that's so important. What I want to really hone in on this podcast is that you're not alone. And like that's something like you said about wanting to make a difference in the industry I've chosen. There is so much depression and anxiety. And if I hadn't gone through, sorry,
Right. It's
if I
okay.
had gone through all of the misdiagnosis and then the treatments that were really hard, and I wouldn't know what anxiety and depression felt like. I wouldn't know on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in the trenches with people that are struggling
Mm-hmm.
on that, like what they can't control, and what I would want to do for other people, or what I would have liked for myself, was to have someone I could have counted on to be my out. That
Right.
good, that I didn't feel so horrible that I was making them leave the party.
Right.
something.
Right.
I tried to be that. I want to be that for other people now. Like, I don't mind leaving. If someone starts having a panic attack, let's go. Let's get out.
Right.
We don't
Right.
have to be here. But like being able to finally understand on a different level, like what so many people, even if you don't have Lyme, are going through,
Mm-hmm.
really does make you feel less hopeless. That
Mm-hmm.
you're not broken. You're not broken. Like, you are just human, and we struggle, and you might feel broken, but people aren't looking at you and thinking, oh, she just can't do it. The way that
Right.
we tell ourselves
Right.
going through it. And
And
I,
maybe that's your lesson. Maybe that's your lesson, right? That you're not
oh,
broken and you are good enough and
yeah,
you will make it and you are not, your
okay.
worth is not dependent on your career, right?
Not. And like, I
It's
mean,
not.
just to know that I was laying in bed resting when everything started, I didn't do that.
Right.
I was prepared, but I was sick, so I wasn't prepared, like,
Well, and it's interesting because they say that when your body feels safe, that's when it becomes the most comfortable to release everything.
oh, the panic
So
attack setting.
maybe, yeah.
It's
So
sick.
you might have been in that period of feeling safe
Mhm.
and you almost felt worse because your body was, instead of holding it all in, it was letting it all out. And I think that now it seems like I don't want to say I mean, it sounds like you're having a flare of some sort,
Yeah,
right? So it's 2025 and you've gone through all of these things and you're working on detox now, right? So are you doing the hot sauna?
we're doing Epsom salt
Okay,
baths.
Epsom salt,
Um, we're trying to do the draining where you like tap and rub in
the
certain
tapping.
spots and like
Yep,
try to get that draining going. I'm taking a systemic drainage drop.
yep.
Um, I wish I knew what brand, but
Okay,
it's a drop. It literally is called system drainage.
okay.
And then on top of that, I'm doing the cardio ND, HMND,
Yep.
gallbladder ND. I'm also taking Smart Silver. So they
Like
have,
colloidal
I am.
silver?
Mhm.
Yep.
They're having me take a couple teaspoons of that. So they test me in order to figure out my dosage because everyone is different with dosage. Everyone reacts different. And depending on how much buildup you have, your body can't actually take in as much as maybe it calls for or what your body says you need.
Right.
Have to build up to that.
Right. But so note to everyone listening, don't take colloidal silver without a practitioner because it can be very dangerous if it is not sourced properly. So I also take colloidal silver, but I've seen people get it like almost on the black market.
Don't do
And colloidal silver, for those who don't know, acts almost as a magnet for infection. So I put it up my nose, I put it in my mouth. But it has to be,
be careful.
yeah, you have to be careful, and it has to be under the care of someone who really knows where
What?
the silver is coming from.
Yes.
What about, do you sweat? Are you sauna, doing anything with heat?
Um, not no, like not really.
Not
But
yet. Okay.
sweating. So that's new. I actually think that's a hormone thing, but people
Okay.
know.
Okay. Okay. Because that was really helpful in my journey. Low heat in the beginning. I ordered a sauna blanket and it's
Okay.
like a sleeping bag and you get in and it like comes up to here. If anybody is interested in the name, it's Higher Dose. That's the brand. And I still religiously do it every day. But so detoxes, I feel like when you start to detox, that's when you're really starting to heal, right? Because you're getting everything out, and then comes the emotional, and it all kind of flows down. So right now, you're still taking a lot of stuff. You're working with two practitioners, one in Texas, one in LA,
Just two in Texas.
just two in Texas, and they're
I'm
kind of.
in LA often, so I split my time, but all of my work, all of my treatments are here in Texas.
Okay. What would you say to people listening were the three things? I know this is hard because there's so many and it's hard to remember. Three things that you took or treatments that you did. So whether it's ozone, whether it's massage, whether it's the frequency treatment, or any of the specific tinctures, what are three things that you're like, these are my non-negotiables. I cannot live without.
Um, okay, so I didn't know what self-care was
Okay.
until recently when I moved
Yeah.
back because or Hollywood, just the whole what I decided to pursue didn't really call for that. There was no room
Right.
for it. And I thought I was fine without it. I didn't realize how important it was. So as much as this might not be like a scientific, like, or do this. I would say find where your self-care, like something that is so helpful for you personally, and religiously put it in your schedule. Look forward to it. Even if you have a really busy schedule, or like, oh, I just don't have the energy today, just treat yourself to something.
So like a walk or
Or like a bath,
meditation or bath. Okay.
or like if you can't get out of bed, pick your Netflix, pick your movie that inspires you. Watch it, because your life isn't over. And if you are still here, you still have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so just know that self-care is so important, and that give yourself grace to have it. I didn't give my
Okay.
grace for so long. I still sometimes struggle with the shame of, oh crap, I can't do as much as someone else, or I should be able to do this, and I
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so on those days, give yourself grace, because we all are struggling through something,
Mm-hmm.
and it is okay not to be okay. Um, and you're not alone. Um, Even if you're in your room by yourself,
Right.
alone.
Right.
And and then I would say, okay, so there's one. And
So
then
self-care.
healthcare.
Yep.
And then I would say, like, and something I'm learning and is that, like, the importance of community. Um, I just talking to you guys before we even got on here. Um, I don't have a community yet of just people that struggled with Lyme. And
Mm-hmm.
but when I find out that someone struggled with Lyme, that's maybe an actor or something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel connected to you.
Right.
I feel
Right.
you. And that can come off creepy. So like I don't recommend that. But just to have your community of people that understand, like a Lyme community, have people that maybe understand exactly what you're going through if you can,
Yeah.
is that will help you tremendously. It's amazing how much our bodies heal physically when emotionally we're healing. Like
Oh my God, it's everything.
it's so crazy. And so those all coincide together. And so if you can emotionally feel uplifted by someone that has struggled a little ahead of you,
Yep.
you're going to feel better, and it helps your body heal. It presents, it's the weirdest thing, but it really does help.
Yep.
Your body sets it up for success.
Yep.
And then the third one is everyone has something that works really well for them. I'm still trying to figure out
Right.
what is not going to plateau, but like actually see me to the end of this journey, because I truly believe, and I will hold on to this, that I'm going to be fully healed someday. And you're going to be fully healed too. Like whoever's listening, like I do not believe that this is a lifetime of suffering. Um, but as each wave comes, um, I plan on trying the oxygenation. I'm actually looking into that right now, but I know it's struggle, like there is herxine involved. So I'm trying to do my research on that. I don't know enough
Yep.
about it, but I know right now the cardio ND is helping. I'm trying the system drainage. I need to drain this so that my
Yep.
lymphatic system can move things, so that I can maybe be
Mm-hmm.
and support. So I would say finding, I still am on that journey of finding what's going to see me to the very end. And in the meantime, I'm trying a lot of things, and I'm trying to keep my head above water.
You're doing great. You're doing great. And you really are. It's exhausting and it really
Oh,
is. It's exhausting and every day presents new challenges. So I want to ask one final question.
yes.
Okay. If you were to look back into your darkest day, right? Those days where you were in bed, you had to leave all of your stuff and your dreams, and you felt like you had given up on yourself. What would you tell yourself to get through those times? What would you tell yourself on the other side of it? Because even though you feel like you're not fully healed, give yourself some credit and give yourself some grace and look in the mirror, and you are doing amazing. So, what would you tell yourself back then how to get through this?
Um, so when you're in such a dark spot like that, you feel like you're the only one in the house. You're in
Yeah.
a dark house, and that house is telling you that there's nothing left. And being sitting in that house, you try your hardest while also feeling so horrible to try to get out. Um, and no matter, I had so many strong people around me that were speaking life into me and like really encouraging. But when you're going through it, you're in your head, it's just you in that house.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not over.
Hmm.
Your life is not over. And if you could just see what's outside of this house, it is worth trying to figure out a way out. And I mean, I wouldn't have the movie that I just filmed. I wouldn't have such a sweet, incredible spot where I feel like I have a quality of life now in my career while also struggling through Lyme disease. Um,
Right.
and actually moving forward. I wouldn't have any of that if I had stayed there and
Yeah.
decided to succumb to all of that. I
Hmm.
just know your life is not over. And even though it feels like it in the moment, there is something just around the river bend, if I
Yes.
can be honest for a second.
Yeah.
But there's something there, and seasons do change. They do. It's proven by most people's lives that there are ups and there are downs, and you are in a valley, and that valley, you're gonna see yourself through it. It is okay.
Absolutely.
You're something around the corner is going to make you smile again and make
And
That's
then once you're fully healed, we're going to make a movie. We're all going to be in the movie about Lyme. You're going to star in it, and we're going to
oh,
teach everyone.
like method acting.
right. So I can't thank you enough for sharing this really beautiful story and sharing it with us in the way that you did. And Alexandra, I can't again thank you for joining us for a third time, second
Thank
time
you.
co-hosting, in sharing this really beautiful and powerful story with our community. So actually, before we go, can you share with folks how they can get in touch with you if they wanted to either support you or gain support from you on this journey?
Um, so I'm hardcore on Instagram, so please feel free to private message me. I answer them. No one is taking over that for me. So
Mhm.
I am the person that's looking through, at least right now, looking through the messages, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of me if you want to message me. And then I also have an email address, a sunny seal ordeal at gmail.com. And I have a website. So even if you can't remember that, that's okay. You can just, it says contact me, and you can contact me through my website.